Mr. Donahue, on December 27th, you had a 90-minute conversation with the president where he raised false claim after false claim with you and Mr. Rosen. How did you respond to what you called a, quote, stream of allegations?
The December 27th conversation was, in my mind, an escalation of the earlier conversations. As the former acting AG indicated, there were a lot of communications that preceded that. As we got later in the month of December, the president's entreaties became more urgent. He became more adamant that we weren't doing our job. We need to step up and do our job. And he had this arsenal of allegations that he wanted to rely on. And so I felt in that conversation that it was incumbent on me to make it very clear to the president what our investigations had revealed, and that we had concluded, based on actual investigations, actual witness interviews, actual reviews of documents, that these allegations simply had no merit. And I wanted to try to cut through the noise, because it was clear to us that there were a lot of people whispering in his ear, feeding him these conspiracy theories and allegations. And I felt that being very blunt in that conversation might help make it clear to the president that these allegations were simply not true. And so as he went through them in what for me was a 90-minute conversation or so, and what for the former acting AG was a 2-hour conversation, as the president went through them, I went piece by piece to say, no, that's false. That is not true. And to correct him really in a serial fashion as he moved from one theory to another.
Can you give me an example of one or two of those theories?
So one that was very clear at that point was the Antrim County, the ASOG report that I mentioned earlier. The Allied Security Operations Group released this report that said 68% error rate. There was, in fact, in Antrim County, a hand recount. Had nothing to do with the department. The department did not request that. That was pursuant to litigation brought by other parties. But there was a hand recount. So they were able to compare the hand recount to what the machines had reported. And for the ballots that were actually counted by the machine, more than 15,000, there was one error, one ballot. And I did a quick calculation and came up with 0.0063% error rate, which is well within tolerance. And so,
okay, so they actually, so I was wrong. They actually did have direct evidence that that report was bullshit.
Yeah, hand recount.
Right.
One ballot out of 15,000.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, but that's why it's so crazy. He's like, listen, I have a report from this one random person, this one group that says there's a 68% error rate in the counting. It's like, well, okay, but we have, they did a hand recount and it said that's bullshit.
Yeah. They did recounts. They did lots of recounts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So I made it very clear to the president, because he was so fixated on the ASOG report in the December 15th conversation.
Oh, this is a later
that,
conversation.
in fact, our investigation revealed that the error rate was 0.0063%. So that, Mr. President's example of what people are telling you that is not true, and that you cannot and should not be relying on. So that was one very explicit one, and I think you see that reflected in my notes. We went through a series of others. The truck driver who claimed to have moved an entire tractor-trailer of ballots from New York to Pennsylvania, that was also incorrect.
I made Sitch look into that because it seems so credible to me. It's like, Sitch, you got to dig into this truck driver thing.
It's all bullshit.
And I think I saw the interview with the guy, and it looked like he was kind of insane.
Yeah.
He did. I think he had like a restraining order against him from his ex-wife and all kinds of
Yeah, you were like,
crazy
oh, this
shit.
seems credible. And then you saw the interview with him. I'm like, okay, this no longer seems
It doesn't seem credible at all. Yeah.
I really hope, I don't know if they will, but I think it will really go a long way for the autistic people like myself, that they really should release the full depositions of all the people that they, that they show that testified.
I would love to read Barr's entire deposition. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to read Barr's entire deposition. I'd love to read this guy's entire deposition.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to read Trump's senior lawyer advisor.
Yeah, I know that guy. Yeah. The pardon my language guy. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would be a horrible denial of transparency if they don't release these people's full depositions.
Yeah.
Because then you could also see if they're
We
taking
didn't
anything
invest-
out of context. So
Right. That's true. Yeah, exactly. You could double check the committee.
Where the FBI interview witnesses at the front end and the back end of that trailer's transit from New York to Pennsylvania. We looked at loading manifests. We interviewed witnesses, including, of course, the driver, and we knew it wasn't true. Whether the driver believed it or not was never clear to me, but it was just not true.
See, the driver did believe it, but they interviewed the people who loaded the fucking truck and unloaded the fucking truck.
yeah.
So that was another one that I tried to educate the president on. There were a series of others, mostly in swing states. Of course, he wanted to talk a great deal about Georgia, the State Farm Arena video, which he believed, for various reasons, was, as he said it, fraud staring.
Why are you laughing?
Well, he's trying to
he
be like
wanted to believe for various reasons.
he's trying to be like as professional and neutral as possible. He's like, the president wanted to believe for various reasons that the video showed.
There's really not various reasons. There's really only one reason.
You right in the
That's a
face.
nice way of saying
Were any of the
for
allegations
bullshit.
he brought up found credible? Did you find any of them credible?
No.
So during this conversation, did you take handwritten notes directly quoting the president?
I think it's in this one. Later they have like the head, he's some long title, some Republican official in charge of election shit in Georgia, says that they had, the video where they said, oh, the lady pulls out the ballot, the box, the suitcase full of
I
ballots.
saw that video. Yeah.
Right. He says that they have a longer video and that Trump's team had a longer video that showed
Them
how the box
placing them,
got
yeah.
under the table in the first place and showed that it was actually all legitimate and that they were intentionally ignoring that part of the video.
Those boxes are locked. So
Yeah.
to prevent tampering.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely not. It's so weird because this is such a colossal strategic error on Trump's part, because Trump would be looking at an easy win in 2024. I really think he would.
I don't think it'd be easy because of Roe v. Wade, but I think it would definitely be possible. I'm not sure it's possible.
I think it would be easy if he pulled back and focused on his accomplishments, which, I mean, Kellyanne Conway listed them in that book, and they sound good. They really do. I mean, he was pushing for price transparency in healthcare, all these things, the prison reform, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I know, but I
he could
really
be
think Roe v.
pushing.
Wade's really gonna hurt them in 2024. It's gonna be a huge issue. Assuming it's not some crazy, we could be in a fucking nuclear war with Russia by that. So who knows? Maybe then it won't matter. But assuming that nothing crazy fucking happens, which is a big assumption,
Do you think
abortion will be a big, thing in 2024.
Do you think Roe v. Wade that's gonna energize the Republican base? So it could just be a complete base election in 2024.
It could be. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. It could go either direction.
I mean,
But it might not, because the thing is, there's more people. The people that are pro-life are far stronger in their conviction and more like a strong base to go out and vote. But there's more people that will go out. Like overall, the country does believe in abortions to some degree.
right.
And when all these state laws, because there's like 20, 21, there's a fuck ton of states that already have like laws to make abortions basically illegal now. Like that, like as soon as the Supreme Court ruled, they basically these laws come into effect. And I'm curious to see if people's opinions change once they start living in states where having an abortion is illegal, where you're going to have them pushing to make Plan B illegal, where you're going to have some states overreaching, trying to make it illegal for people to leave the state to seek an abortion, which is going to be a whole fucking shit show when that happens.
Yeah, who knows how it's going to play out.
Yeah, I think there's going to be lots of weird stuff that's going to happen with the abortion conversation.
I saw some article that some abortion clinics canceled all scheduled abortions in certain areas.
Sure.
Can you imagine? You've got an abortion lined up and all of a sudden,
Yep.
oh, that's not happening now.
Yeah,
And
because there were all these laws that were going to come into effect the second the Supreme Court ruled, basically.
right. Yeah. Birth rates are going to be up. It's going to be great.
I did, and to make it clear, Attorney General Rosen called me on my government cell phone, said he'd been on the phone with the president for some time. The president had a lot of these allegations. I was better versed in what the department had done just because I had closer contact with the investigations, and the AG asked me to get on the call. Of course, I agreed. And I began taking notes only because at the outset the president made an allegation I had not heard. I'd heard many of these things. I knew many of them were investigated. But when the president, at least when I came to the conversation, when he began speaking, he brought up an allegation I was completely unaware of. And of course that concerned us. So I simply reached out and grabbed a notepad off my wife's nightstand and a pen, and I started jotting it down. That had to do with an allegation that more than 200,000 votes were certified in the state of Pennsylvania that were not actually cast. Sometimes the president would say it was 205, sometimes he would say it was 250, but I'd not heard this before, and I want to get the allegation down clearly so that we can look into it if appropriate, and that's why I started taking those notes, and then as the conversation continued, I just continued to take the notes.
Let's take a look at the notes, if we could right now. As we can see on the screen, you actually quote President Trump asking, "Where's DOJ?" just like we heard him say in his first television interview. How did you respond to that?
So both the acting AG and I tried to explain to the president on this occasion and on several other occasions that the Justice Department has a very important, very specific, but very limited role in these elections. States run their elections. We are not quality control for the states. We are obviously interested in and have a mission that relates to criminal conduct in relation to federal elections. We also have related civil rights responsibilities, so we do have an important role. But the bottom line was, if a state ran their election in such a way that it was defective, that is to the state or Congress to correct. It is not for the Justice Department to step in. And I certainly understood the president as a layman, not understanding why the Justice Department didn't have at least a civil role to step in and bring suit on behalf of the American people. We tried to explain that to him. The American people do not constitute the client for the United States Justice Department. The one and only client of the United States Justice Department is the United States government. And the United States government does not have standing, as we were repeatedly told by our internal teams, OLC led by Steve Engel, as well as the Office of the Solicitor General, researched it and gave us thorough, clear opinions that we simply did not have standing. And we tried to explain that to the president on numerous occasions.
So there's your standing issue right there. They have no standing in court to sue because they haven't been wronged in any way.
Let's take a look at another one of your notes. You also noted that Mr. Rosen said to Mr. Trump, quote, "DOJ can't and won't snap its fingers and change the outcome of the election." How did the president respond to that, sir?
Dude, he fucking that. Can you imagine? Oh my goodness! Holy
Dude,
shit!
to me,
he's at the end of his rope if
I
he's
know.
saying that shit.
I know, to the president.
All fucking niceties have gone out the window.
What? Did they say how long this call was? I'm curious. How long
He
this
said
call-
90 minutes.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I wonder. Is this like towards the 90-minute mark of the phone call?
Well, if he's grabbing the, I mean, he's obviously been pulled out of bed, right? He's grabbing the fucking notepad.
You're
off
right. He said this the
wife's
nightstand
nightstand.
notepad.
Yeah.
You're right.
He responded very quickly and said, essentially, that's not what I'm asking you to do. What I'm just asking you to do is just say it was corrupt and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressman.
So
That is not. That is not good. That is
Never
not.
know.
I don't know how you can hear that and think, "Oh, this is fine." Oh, I guess you hear that and you think that's fine because you believe that the election was actually stolen. You believe that there was fraud and abuse and corruption, and so you think he's doing the right thing because ultimately he won. That's how you think that that's
Right.
okay.
But he's asking him to lie because he's saying we don't have evidence that there was fraud. And he's like, well, just say that there was doubt and I'll do the rest. That's all he's asking. He's just saying, give me the window of opportunity.
Right.
Which, I mean, this is pretty corrupt. I mean, he's asking this guy to lie, to put the seal of the Justice Department's approval on this.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy.